My name is DeepakChari. I'm an Advanced Voice Biofeedback Specialist, and I've created my program called my Life Transformation Technology Program. This program will help you be seen and heard like you never were before. You'll also have a voice like you've never had before. I deal with a lot of men and women, and the most common thing I hear from all of them is, I'm speaking, but no one really hears me or even sees me when I'm speaking. And I'll listen to their voice and I'll say, yes, I know why. Because I can barely hear you. I mean, you're saying words, but a lot of the notes are not heard. That's because you have these emotional patterns that are squashing or dampening those notes from being heard. So once I get those notes to be heard again, in other words, release the emotions that are squashing those notes, you will be seen and heard like never before. For example, I worked on a woman who was working with men, and she gave some phenomenal ideas that would save the company millions and millions of dollars. They didn't follow anything she said, so they lost millions of dollars. So she went up to them and told the gentleman, I gave you the ideas of how to save this millions of dollars. You didn't listen to me. Ma'am, did you say something to me? I don't remember saying anything. Did she say anything, Joe? I don't remember hearing anything from her. Then she came to me, Deepak, I'm so frustrated. These men never listened to a word I said. I said, well, that's because the notes are squashing your voice. You're not being heard. So I cleared that pattern. I got all the notes harmonized. I said, I want you to talk to them again. You have other brilliant ideas. I know you'll save them money in some other way. So she went over to them and said, okay, guys, you didn't follow my last advice. I have another idea, which will definitely save you a ton of money. So she gave them the idea and they said, that is the most incredible idea you ever have given us. You should give us more ideas like this more often. We wouldn't have lost another business before. So she was the same time she was seen and heard like she never was before, because now your voice is totally seen and heard. So I just wanted to share with you, that's the most common thing I hear from people, that they're not really seen and heard in the way they represent themselves. And we're always talking to others, aren't we? So if we're really seen and heard, then our message will be received by everybody. I just wanted to share that with you. So yes, it's a pleasure to be on the Online Prosperity Show with Prosper, and it's such a pleasure to be here.
Now, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, your go-to destination for exclusive insights into personal and professional growth. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we're going to be diving into a transformative world of voice and energy with our special guest, who's now turned childhood challenges into a mission to help others. Now, Deepak, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Prosper.
Absolutely. I'm seeing a few books behind you there. Are you still hiding in a library, or is this now your home office?
This is my home office.
Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. For our viewers, you might be wondering what it is that I'm talking about. I want you to imagine being bullied so much that you had to seek refuge in a library, and only to discover that, there are books in there, and one book in particular, a book on the law of attraction, was the one that actually gave you the most comfort while you were hiding. And then fast forward, that same individual that was hiding from the bullies has now become an engineer who pioneers a technology that uses sound, the sound of your voice, to release subconscious blocks. I know that sounds like a sci-fi movie or some sort of Bollywood extension of, a Slumdog Millionaire there, but this is exactly the real life journey of our guest, DeepakChari. Now, Deepak is the founder of Chari Center of Health and is the creator of the Life Transformation Technology program that is actually trademarked, and it utilizes advanced voice biofeedback to help clients overcome anxiety, stress, and self-sabotaging patterns. And his work has actually gone on to empower, thousands to achieve greater confidence improved relationships, and business success. Now, if you ever felt maybe in your life that you've got these invisible barriers, or you've got invisible bullies in your life, or maybe wondered how your voice could actually be the key to unlocking your own potential, I recommend that you stay tuned today, because this episode promises to be both enlightening and empowering. But Deepak, I could go on and talk about things that I know nothing about and things I'm not even qualified to talk about. Take us back to the time where these bullies were bullying you, to the time you actually had to seek refuge in the library.
Well, thank you, Prosper. Yes, as I was growing up as a kid, I had this pattern of being bullied. I was a first generation Indian kid. My parents came from India in the late 50s, mid 50s, and early 60s. And so I was a first generation Indian kid. So at the time, people were not familiar with our kind of background. So I was bullied, physically, emotionally, physically mainly. So I would run and hide in the library, the local library nearby, pretty much all day long, which is difficult to do schoolwork, of course. But and while I was hiding in the library between aisles, I would come out in the evening for when it was safe. While I was in the library, I just grabbed books because I'm sitting there all day, right? So I would just grab books off the shelf. Well, I didn't know, unbeknownst to me, the books I were grabbing were on the law of attraction. Different authors, Joseph Murphy, Napoleon Hill, Clement Stone, and many other authors. So I would read these books, and I didn't realize at the time I was actually programming my mind to think in a different way, the way you could manifest, though I didn't really fully understand at the time. And this applied later on further in life, as I will explain shortly. So as I was getting bullied throughout, my early elementary school years, it went on into junior high, then even into high school, I kind of thought to myself, when will this bullying end? Oh, I know. When I'm 18, this will stop, because these immature kids doing this silly thing will stop this. It was a different kind of bullying as you go through different ages. Like in early years, it's just physical bullying. But as you go into high school, it's more like, okay, what group are you in? Oh, you're not in part of our group. Are you in the athletes? Are you in the academic? Are you, I was in kind of a group by myself. But when I went into college, I thought, okay, this will be done with. But it still continued. I was bullied. I was bullied by my professors. Because my professors I would go to the dean of engineering and say, I would like to be an engineer. But they would say to me, I think you would be suited for going on the other side of campus. And I said, other side of campus? You mean theater department? Acting? Oh, I'm not interested in acting. I want to be an engineer. But they thought I was suited for that. So what ended up happening is I became more determined than ever. Oh, I will show you. I will be an engineer. I will show you. So I went all the more reason to be an engineer than ever. My father happened to also be an engineer. That's probably why I went in that direction. So as I was going through engineering school, I was attracting more of these bullies. It evolved in different ways. Bosses, supervisors, managers, and even relationships in the female area that I perceived as being bullies. Even friends who would no longer be my friends now were bullies. So I figured, well, that's what life deals you. You just have to take what you can get. That's all you can get is bullies for all these people. Relationships, friends, bosses, that's how it is. But after a while, I would get bothered by that. So I would leave those jobs, leave those relationships. But then I would go to hundreds of miles away, even thousands of miles away, and I would draw the same bosses, supervisors, friends, even relationships. Again, they looked different, but their energy was the same. Then one day it came to me, Prosper, that it said, wait a minute. When I'm running away from all these things, what is the one thing that's common in all of these situations? It was me. So I said, wait a minute, if I'm the only central common theme here, then I must be creating this, obviously, somehow. Well, then I thought, why am I attracting this bullying pattern in my life? Thus, that led me onto this journey. So fast forward many years later, after college and everything, when my sister and I formed, my sister's a medical doctor. We formed the Chari Center of Health, which is an integrative functional medical center. She was working on seeing clients, men and women and men, working on their health issues in a natural approach. That is, without pharmaceutical approach, I should say. And I was managing the business and I was still working in the field as a conventional engineer. But after seeing all the hundreds and even thousands of people she was helping, I thought, you know what? I want to go from this left brain engineering world to healing people some way. But I had no medical background. So remember I talked about the law of attraction books I grabbed off the shelf. So remembering that, I put my intention that universe, can you somehow help me to heal people in some way? I don't have any medical background with my engineering degree to help people heal in some way and make this manifest for me. And then I let it go, which is known as detachment. A few weeks later, some friends came up to me and said, Deepak, this guy's going to be speaking in Santa Monica, California, about how your voice reveals everything that's going on in your subconscious mind, including your limiting beliefs, limiting perceptions, and other emotional patterns. And most importantly, how certain frequencies and harmonics and other high technologies could be sent to that person and energies from their own voice back to them to release those patterns in a quick and easy manner, no matter how long they've had them, whether it's a few years or many decades. I was fascinated. I said, yeah, I want to come to this presentation. So after listening to that presentation, all the light bulbs went off in my head saying, wait a minute, this is something I could do at our Chari Center of Health, which is the medical center medical clinic that we created. And then I suddenly thought, wait a minute, maybe I could use this technology to help clear the bullying pattern I've had my whole life that I was just describing. So I was one of a handful of people that apprenticed from this gentleman who created the software for the technology. And after that, only a handful of people learned from him. And then after that, he had health issues and decided not to teach anymore. So I was in the right place at the right time and I learned this. Then because of my engineering background, this is where that came in. I took what I was taught and I improvised it and made it even to another level, quantum level, from what I was originally taught to get even faster results as far as I was concerned. So once I learned this and he saw me apprenticing with many people, clearing their issues, I worked on myself to clear that bullying pattern. I said, can I clear this? And I was able to. Then I realized it's like a matrix program, like the movie The Matrix. So if I could remove this program and replace it with, instead of drawing bullying people, drawing loving, caring, compassionate, caring people in my life, then that's incredible. And that's exactly what happened. Then I realized I wasn't dealt. This is not how people should be in the world. You do not have to be bullied. And even if I had no concept or clue what loving, compassionate, caring people were, I could still change the programming and then enjoy that new life. And that's exactly what happened. So once I was able to do that for myself, then I decided, well, I can help so many other people now. And so I ended up working on one after another. Then I first starting all over the US, and then I went to all the countries around the world too, and helped all of them, since all the work I do is done virtually. So as a result, thousands of people benefited from my initial journey of being bullied. So this is how a seemingly unfortunate situation of being bullied turned into something that not only cleared my bullying pattern, but ended up helping thousands of people with all of their emotional issues as well.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking us on that journey in and of itself. I mean, obviously, it's not a good feeling as a kid just arriving in a country and being subjected to all of that you were being bullied. But I like one thing that you didn't say out loud there, that usually the people that bully you are dumb people because they wouldn't know to look for you in a library, right?
Yeah, you have an interesting point. Well, I was very good at hiding in the aisleways of the library and moving from one place to another.
Absolutely. But there's also something that, fish don't see the water that they swim in. And you wouldn't have gravitated towards these books had there not be any sort of prior knowledge of, say, books or things of that nature. I think there's what they call the reticular activated system where once something starts becoming prevalent in your life, like if we talk about the color blue, we could both start noticing, wait a minute, we're wearing blue shirts, okay, and things of that nature right now. What would you think or ascribe to the fact that you started gravitating towards these books? Because the library has books from A to Z, and just you focusing on these books, they must have been some sort of prior knowledge of this way of life somewhere, or was that you looking for answers?
Yeah, well, it kind of is a combination. My father was very academic. He was a PhD in chemical engineering, and he definitely, made it helped me to make sure I studied well, since I would always not want to study quite all the time. And he made sure I was focused, and and he was very, very very systematic in everything he did. And also he had an engineering background, as I mentioned. So being around that energy, which was very helpful to me later on in life, being organized and systematic, helped me develop systems like the one I developed with this Advanced Voice Biofeedback Technology program, the Life Transformation Technology program. That's helped me to do that. And because he was so well read, that was in my, you might say, DNA. In fact, that's the concept of this work, which I'll cover in just a bit, that these are patterns that come from your ancestors, your parents, your grandparents, your upbringing. There's actually 4 phases to this. So because I was around his energy like that, there was an inherent desire to learn, to constantly learn, to expand myself. So, of course, being in that situation, just like you aptly described, I had a great opportunity amongst hundreds and thousands of books, actually, right? And I happened to be among books that were of particular interest to me. So that led me in that direction. And so that's why I went in that direction. And I was just going to briefly mention here that what I discovered from this process of this Advanced Voice Biofeedback, the Life Transformation Technology program I created, and I learned also from my mentors, is that there are essentially 4 phases that happen to us. From the time our parents decide to procreate us, okay, literally, whatever emotions or unresolved feelings or thoughts they had in that moment, I'm being kind of direct here, to create us or procreate us in that moment, goes into our energy field. Now, we're just a tiny little embryo, right, at that time, but that energy is still in there from our parents. Even their good intention, but they're unresolved emotions. Maybe they're anxious, maybe they're depressed, maybe they weren't happy in life, maybe they weren't happy in their relationship, frustrated, or whatever they may be. Maybe they have trauma in their life. Certain percentage of that goes into your energy field. But then also the unresolved issues of your grandparents on both sides also go into the energy field. And it didn't matter, Prosper, whether you knew those grandparents or not. This is the interesting thing about this work. That goes into your energy field as well. So that's phase 1. Phase 2 is you're in your mom's womb for those 9 months, right? And whatever your mom is feeling or thinking, maybe she's frustrated with your dad, maybe they're in an unhappy relationship, maybe she's frustrated in her life, maybe she wanted to be a jet-setting model and now she has this child. Whatever is going on in her life, you pick up directly from her. And even between your dad and your mom, you pick that up. That's phase 2. Then there's phase 3, when you're born. Now you're already in phase 3. So now you have the direct interface of your parents and or grandparents in how they mold you. And I found, Prosper, very specifically from data and research, from the time you're born to the time you're around age 7 or 8, whatever is said, even if it's totally inappropriate and totally, you might say, not nice or whatever, you just accept it as the gospel truth. You're slow. Why can't you be like this person? You'll never amount to anything. All you'll amount to is this. You don't have the brains of this, or whatever they say. You would think, oh, I won't believe that. Oh, yes, you will. From 0 to 7, you won't question it. In fact, even from 8 to 13, you'll question a little bit, but you'll pretty much accept it. Therefore, I found from the time you're born till the time you're 13 or 14, whatever is said and done in those years goes right into your subconscious as the gospel truth, as how you see the world. Then I found that even after 14, whatever happened up to age 14, you continuously project that energy forward and draw the same patterns into your life over and over again. For example, that bullying pattern. So my parents were bullied too, I found out later on. And so they carried that energy without them realizing it. And probably my ancestors even above them, the grandparents. So that's how that came into my energy field. And thus, that's why I was drawing these kinds of things too. But the good news is I found out how to clear those patterns permanently. So now you are free from the prison of those past patterns, the limiting patterns. You keep all the good stuff of your ancestors, and you can create a whole new path that you otherwise would not have created. In fact, you would have repeated the past patterns of the past over and over again. And it would just continue. So that's why this is such profound work.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for obviously making that connection, because so many people are just wandering in this life, not realizing that half of the stuff that's drawing them back is not even, things of their own doing. It's things that would have come across with them along the way. Now,
Exactly.
in your journey, you also introduced a character who happens to be your sister, who you later on work with. But obviously, you guys would have grown up together. Just so that we have a parallel and see, whether this, was just a unique experience to you. Did she also experiencing the same level and the kind of bullying that you have elaborated on us?
Actually, you're correct. She did too. Yes, she did. She also experienced that in elementary school as well. She just tolerated it, wasn't happy with it, but she accepted that. And it affected her self-esteem, her self-worth, just as it did mine. We just dealt with it in different ways. So once I was able to figure all this out and work on myself, I also worked on her. Because when we formed the Chari Center of Health back in 1999 in San Diego, we wanted to create an integrated functional medical center that goes to the root cause, not just the symptoms, both medically, and then I didn't know till I joined in emotionally as well. Once I got the skill level, then I was able to do that as well. So we were able to go to the root cause. So of course, I worked on her as well, so that we are both on the same page, clear of those patterns of the past, and thus helping others fully without those limiting beliefs.
Absolutely. And you also did allude to a fact that is very strong, and a lot of people really need to understand that wherever you are, there you are. It doesn't matter whether you move states or you go places or whatever it is. If you haven't sorted out whatever is within, you will still be able to find that in the places that you go. And I just wanted to put that on there so that people can actually then understand where we are now going to with these conversation. Now,
yes,
when you started as an engineer. That was now your career path, and you sort of moving forward and things of that nature. Engineers, from my understanding, are very left brain. Everything has to fit some certain mold, and there's no room for woo-woo feelings and things of that nature. How did you then manage to cross over? Because there's a big crossover between your right brain and your left brain to now being able to understand things from a law of attraction standpoint.
That's a great question, Prosper. You're right. All of my colleagues and friends and classmates in engineering school were very, very left brain. But I, fortunately, because of my experience as a kid in the library, as I talked about earlier, was very right-brained, doing a left brain kind of a science. So I brought a whole new twist to the whole process. Even the thesis I wrote was unlike any thesis that had been written in the history of that place, in the university. But the thing is, because I was thinking like that, I would think outside the box. For example, engineers are told to, go through decisions and kind of look at the data and say, based on my data and research, this is what I conclude, right? On efficiency or productivity or machine design or whatever it is. But sometimes they would make a decision, which I would notice because I'm a very right brain person, very in the creative way, that I said, I noticed you made this decision, but though you said it's based on this data, and there is data to support it, but your decision was made on intuition, wasn't it? No, it's based on all the research. See this research and data. I said, yeah, I agree with that research. But what actually made you decide that was your intuition, isn't it? And I noticed they were afraid to use that word intuition. I was not. In fact, 70% of my work that I do currently is intuitive, and 30% is pure technical work with this life transformation technology program using advanced voice biofeedback. So you are correct what you said, but because I had the right brain aspect with it, I could add my creativity and expansionness, and especially as you talked about the woo-woo law of attraction, I could definitely add that in there. In fact, it's the law of attraction that helped me to draw the situations, circumstances, and events that were putting me in the right place to even do this technology at our center and help so many thousands of people. So I'm very grateful for that.
Absolutely. Now, Deepak, I mean, I'm going to say this with love and respect. Wouldn't that have then be the reason why these college professors told you should go to the acting class? Because to them, it all sounded like you were taking a joke in a field of engineering, which is supposed to be all numbers in straight lines.
Yeah. And well, as a young kid, 18, 19, yeah, I did, go through that rebellion thing. No, you can't tell me what to do. I'm going to show you, and that, and all of that kind of thing, right? As an 18-year-old young kid would do. So in a way, I took that, what they meant for me to go to the other side of the campus, the theater department, and turned it into a passion. Like, I will show you, I will be the best engineer there is. I will do things in ways no one has done it before. I will show you, that kind of thing. So it ended up going to my benefit. Now, somebody else, maybe they would have said, oh, I don't have what it takes. Maybe I'll do this, or, go to some other field. But I was determined, no, you're not going to, I'm going to stick on my path. I'm going to do this. So so it created more determination and passion to show them more than ever, actually.
Now, some of us hear voices and noises in our heads, things that are just telling us whether self-sabotage, you're not good enough, or things of that nature. Is that what you refer to as the advanced voice biofeedback?
Yes, exactly what you said. The self-sabotage, the I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of being loved, or I don't deserve to be loved, nobody likes me, what's the point in speaking, nobody cares, I don't deserve happiness. All of these thoughts, we think they're our own. They become our own, but they're not actually our own. These are thoughts and emotions from I call them ancestral patterns. The collective consciousness of our ancestors, our parents and grandparents, and combined along with our childhood experiences, which everybody's had challenging childhood experiences. I'm sure all your viewers and listeners out there have. Those have a huge impact, especially in those ages 0 to 14, on how we see the world, perceive the world. So when we're raised in a challenging environment, like in my case, the bullying, but it could be anyone's challenging environment. Maybe they have trauma in the house or whatever. That literally shapes how you see the world and what you draw into your life and how you feel about yourself. And those thoughts you are referring to are programs from our past. Those 4 phases I talked about, parents, grandparents, your childhood upbringing. It could even be teachers who told you something. I can't believe you gave this answer. Isn't that ridiculous, class? And then everyone laughs, and then or you have to sit in the corner as a dunce, all of that kind of thing. The teachers were part of it too. So it's all of those events that shape those voices that you're talking about. And this program, exactly as you said, will clear all those patterns of thoughts, which are the subconscious pattern thoughts, from your whole consciousness, and in fact replace them with wonderful positive thoughts. So it will be a complete shift in your whole reality of how you feel about yourself. And I also found something else, as I can add here, Prosper. You know how a lot of people say mantras or affirmations, which is fine, right? You have to say it for 30 days or 90 days or whatever, and then it starts manifesting, which is fine. What I found with this work that I'm doing with the Advanced Voice Biofeedback Life Transformation Technology Program, when you do this program with me, you are like the law of attraction on autopilot. You don't have to say any affirmations. You don't have to do any of that. If you want to, go ahead, but not necessary. You start drawing and attracting those situations, circumstances, and events that are in your favor. just on autopilot, because we're changing it from the inside, the subconscious, the one that's running the show.
Now, obviously, you've been doing this for quite a while, but for somebody who's just listening to a podcast right now and wondering, how does this actually work? Like, there are those words, there are those things, and how does this sort of technology detect which ones are the good ones and which ones are the bad ones to delete and remove and things like that? Because as you know, in our lives, we've got good bacteria and bad bacteria. And the good bacteria is actually needed for us to survive. And there are some things that are already in our brains that are needed for us to actually survive. Those instructions are there for our own survival. How does this now know which ones to delete and which ones to keep?
Okay, so the thing is, if we base it on the concept of harmony, let's say we walk into a club, right? And there's a beautiful piano there. And you say, Deepak, play me my favorite song. I can play piano. I'm not a professional piano player, but I can play piano. So I play your favorite song. And then Prosper, you say, Deepak, please stop playing that. I said, Prosper, this is your favorite song. Why do you ask me to play it? Why do you want me to stop playing this song? It's very irritating when you play that song. I said, but it's your favorite song. Then I say, wait, let me investigate this further. I go up to the piano and I say, wait a minute. This piano is 500 years old. Some of the keys are stuck and many of the keys are out of tune. So I'm playing his favorite song correctly. I'm talking in my normal way, but those notes are irritating you because they're out of tune and some are not even playing at all. That's what happens when we are talking about something and we have these limiting patterns of thought. It actually creates an irritation even to other people in our field, in our area. For example, let's say you're talking to somebody for like 25 minutes, and after 20 minutes, you say, so what do you think about that? And they say, excuse me, were you talking to me just a bit ago? I was like, I was talking to you for 20 minutes. Oh, did you not hear what a word I said? No, I know you're saying something about something interesting or something. So why did that happen? I found out this is what happens. When we have limiting emotional patterns, and this is the science of this work, those actually squash certain notes in your voice. And different emotions literally squash different notes of your voice. There are 12 key notes in your voice, just as there are 12 notes on a piano that repeat. You may see hundreds of keys on a piano, but it's still same 12 notes that repeat. Okay? So if somebody has anger, for example, it'll squash certain particular keys on the piano. If someone has sadness, deep depression, it'll squash different notes on the piano. If someone has low esteem, low self-worth, different notes will be squashed. Trauma, different notes will be squashed. If you have a couple of these things, many of the notes will be squashed, meaning you won't hear them when someone is speaking. That is why when you're talking, you have these different emotional patterns, people really don't hear you fully. Or the emotions, because it squashes the notes, it makes them out of tune. And so when you speak, it actually irritates the person. How many times have you seen others when they're talking about someone and someone gets really irritated with you and you're talking about a pretty okay topic? There's nothing, but somehow they're irritated with you specifically. They're getting moody or upset. It's because of these patterns. So in other words, what you're asking is, how do I get rid of only the limiting emotions? I will search for the notes that I don't hear versus the ones I do hear, because the ones I don't hear are because the negative emotions are squashing those notes. So I'll do a process called sympathetic resonance. Well, I would resonate the notes that are stuck. So for example, let's say I didn't hear the notes F and A in someone's voice. Okay, just to give you an example. That's because certain emotions are squashing those keys. Anger or sadness are squashing those keys from playing. So I will do a reverse engineering. I will resonate those stuck keys to play that were not being heard. Remember, those notes are not heard. So then whatever is sitting on those keys cannot coexist in an otherwise harmonized environment that I create. So once the keys start playing, that is the keys in every cell of our body, we have 62 or more trillion cells, then that emotion will suddenly lift out of your body. Whether you had it for 1 year or 50 years or 60 years or whatever number of years, quickly and easily. And then I'll know, Prosper, that the person has released that emotion. How? I'll listen to their voice before where I didn't hear the note. And I'll say, talk about that challenging situation again where you were bullied or where you had this trauma. And this time I will hear those notes in their voice, which is a confirmation that they released that trauma or depression or anxiety or whatever that emotional pattern is.
But And thank you so much for going through that. But that sort of assumes that everyone is coming from an even kill, or there's a standard of how certain things are supposed to sound or be. If I would just maybe look at you and I, we're coming from totally different and opposing cultures, of which some things might be acceptable in my culture, maybe not acceptable in your culture. And now in the spaces that we're in, it's a whole different environment and expectation as well. Now, if you've worked with thousands of people worldwide, are there any maybe cultural differences in how people respond and perceive these methods? And are there some things that people want to hold on to just because it's always been like this for them growing up?
That's a great question, Prosper. And you are exactly right. Different continents of the world have almost a certain different kinds of set emotional patterns. For example, if a country from the past was suppressed by another country, those people in that country collectively, even though they have different personal emotional issues themselves, different traumas or depression or whatever, because of that suppression energy from another country, they have that energy of feeling suppressed, feeling not good enough, feeling less than in general. So answer yes, different continents will have it. And if it was an oppressive country, then they will have a domineering energy in general. So you're right. The people from different continents did have different patterns. The people from Asia had a totally different pattern. So even no matter who I worked on, though they had their own unique personal issues to work on, which I addressed, as a collective whole, I noticed, you're right, certain patterns based on those countries in how the people were raised and how the government was and so on and so forth. So you are correct.
Absolutely. And how long does this usually take to function? Because if I send you a message right now, I'm expecting a response immediately. And that's the sort of world that we live in. You know, everything is fast paced. Everybody has stress, anxiety, all of those things are prevalent. You know what I mean? How does your program maybe provide that? What's the sort of response that somebody can expect for this to start working?
That's a great question. So, and it's a very common question. So, someone has a lifelong patterns, right? I've worked on people from age 18 to 90. Someone 18-year-old, they have definitely life experiences, but compared to someone who's, 70s, 80s, 90s would be quite different, right? They have so much more stuff to clear. So, I start out with the baseline of about 9 sessions because it takes about, I found generally speaking, around 7 to 9, basically 9 sessions to get to the core limiting overall theme of limiting beliefs that the person has. Okay. And I have certain stages from which I do it. I first clear the imprints they picked up from their parents. And I pick up all the key imprints they picked up from key childhood experiences. We've all had them that were traumatic or limiting or heavy. So then that's phase 2. Phase 3 is I clear what's going on in their current life that's stressing them out. And then I work on the relationships. Everyone's, if someone's had one relationship before and now they're in a current relationship, those relationships carry baggage or previous emotional baggage that needs to be cleared in order for them to move forward. So we take care of the relationships. And then lastly, I clear the imprints that they picked up from their grandparents. And by the way, it doesn't matter if the grandparents had all died before the kid is born. I actually measure in the first half hour, the first hour and a half session, I will create a map of all of the ancestors, parents, grandparents, even relationships you had, and I will tell you what percentage of the patterns from each of those people, parents and grandparents, came to you to become your own perception of the world. In other words, you might think, this is how I believe, this is what I think. And I'll say, well, actually, that's 80% of the way your father thought. That's about 85% of the way your mother actually, her belief system is. And that's about 92% of how your father's father was believing. But my father's father died before I was born, Deepak, so it couldn't have affected me. I say, no, that's not correct at all. Because of their energy in the collective field, they may have even more impact than your own parents. So all of these different, so I will actually show that in a matrix when the first part of the session, which patterns you picked up from these people, making you think that's how you believed, that's how you had your own belief system, but it's actually the collective of all theirs. So that's why I first clear those limiting imprints, keep all the positive ones and the wisdom from them. Limiting imprints from the parents, limiting imprints from the childhood events, limiting imprints from the relationships and from the grandparents. Then you are totally, literally free of the chains. You're free from the matrix. You're going to create new pathways that you never did. Because if you don't clear these patterns, you know what I discovered? You will repeat them again and again, not only in your own life, but in your kid's life and their kid's life. And that's what already happened for hundreds of years before.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for clarifying that. Now, you keep referring this to like the Matrix, and my understanding of the Matrix is, when Neo was going through problems or whatever, they would replace the software or the ideas that he had with a new way of doing things. Is this akin to what you're talking about, that you are, is there some form of deleting that's happening, or are you just displacing them so that people get detached, as you used that word earlier on? Is there a permanent deleting of memory that you're doing there?
So the wonderful thing about this work is, rather than deleting, I'm reharmonizing their interior. You see, because the voice is out of tune, so to speak. The voice is the direct reflection of their own subconscious mind. It's the most accurate reflection of the subconscious mind, according to over 100 years of data going back in time from research. So since the voice is the most accurate reflection of the subconscious, including especially the limiting beliefs, I'm harmonizing and balancing out anything that's, so to speak, out of tune thoughts, trauma, anxiety, fears, phobias, emotional trauma, self-sabotage, emotional triggers. You get upset, you don't know why. All these kinds of things. They're limiting patterns. They're not going to help you in any way, shape, or form. So those are the ones I harmonize or dissolve versus delete. And thus, we're kind of basically rewiring your subconscious. We're unwiring the old way of thinking, releasing the emotional charge. This is the key part of it. And then reconnecting it in a completely different way than it was before. So you'll have all the memories of before, nothing is deleted, but you won't have the emotional triggers or charge that you used to have. That's ultimate mastery in your life. Because if you can remember the things of the past, nothing will be deleted memory-wise, but not get triggered by it. See, that's the key here. Then you have mastery in your life versus trying to, we're not deleting anything. We're just reharmonizing it. And guess what? As a benefit of working with me in this process I described in Life Transformation Technology Program, you'll get a voice like you've never had before. You'll have more harmony, more resonance. You'll have, singers love this when they come to me. Sometimes the greatest singer with the best coaches in the world, they still can't hit the notes. You know why? They had some emotional breakup with their boyfriend or relationship, or some business deal fell through, and that affected their emotions, which affected their voice, as I described earlier. So I released that emotional triggers of all of that upset, and then they suddenly have a voice that's fantastic. So everyone will get that same kind of voice, a voice like they've never had before. So rather than deleting things, I'm reformatting it. I'm unwiring it from the non-resourceful way, releasing the emotional charge and reconnecting it in a completely different way, re-optimized way. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you so much for clarifying that. Now, for those that are watching or listening right now, if you've ever felt like maybe something invisible is holding you back, or maybe it could be, the way that you're showing up in the world, or maybe you've got this recurring pattern, or just in some unexplained fear, maybe share your experiences in the comments below, and hopefully we can create a community that can support each other with understanding and also compassion. And I'm hoping that maybe Deepak will be checking these comments and then maybe be able to help you out along your journey. Now, obviously this sounds, and Deepak, I'm addressing you right now, this all sounds very futuristic, and had this been there, I think most of the problems that we have in the world right now would not be there, because I really feel like so many people are just going through the patterns that they were told by, the elders and they haven't had any scenario to sort of break that pattern and then start formulating their own methodologies. Has this been made available because of the new technology, or is this something that has always been there but is now being improved because the technology is now prevalent?
Well, because of the age we're in right now, technology is moving at a very fast pace. So in the past, it might have been done in a more cumbersome way, but because of technology and circuitry and all kinds of semiconductors and so many things, now the technology is available to do this, as I said, remotely. All a person needs to work with me now is a laptop with the Windows. It's a Windows-based program, a headset with a swing down mic, a USB headset with a swing down mic. I'll tell you which one to get. And then a technology they plug into their computer, which they place their hand on, which I, as a practitioner, would send to them. Now we have the workstation, and they place their hand on that. They close their eyes. They listen to certain frequencies, and I guide them to think about certain things, the things that were challenging them. And then we just start clearing these patterns. So yes, because of the age we're in, things were condensed and made smaller from where they were before. Because I was there I was one of the early people who were there when they had the more bigger designs, which were not even, you had to be there in person. And then now it evolved so it's virtual. So in answer to your question, yes, the times we're in, that's why we're able to do this technology in this advanced way, and you can do it from the comfort of your own home. And the great part of it is, and I offer a complimentary 15-minute consult by Zoom with me, so I can hear what each person individually is going through, and because I customize my program for each person's unique needs. So, and there's no obligation for this 15-minute consult with me also.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, there will be a lot of skeptical people out there that might just want a bit of a nudge to sort of see if this is something that will be for them. You've shown us that this has worked on you, and you've also elaborated that it's worked on your sister and things of that nature. But what if that is just a genetic, luck of the draw, that you guys are coming from the same things that can be taken away and it's easy for you to follow that pattern? Do you have, without maybe pointing out to information that might identify this person, maybe some sort of a success story where this program has actually made a significant impact on somebody's life that you can maybe share with us, just so that we can see how this sort of works on other humans that are not Charis?
Oh yeah, of course. We started with ourselves because at that time I had just learned this technology and I'd worked on myself. But I've worked on thousands of people, and I put that on my website. My website is fastanxietyhelp.com. So if anyone goes to my website, fastanxietyhelp.com, and goes to testimonials tab, you'll see tons of testimonials there and of how people have benefited from my work. But I have so many case studies. One person was holding resentment to their mother for the rough childhood they had and the challenges they went through, and they harbored that their whole life into their 40s and even 50s. And so they came to me with this bitterness and anger about how they had a rough childhood and everything. So again, with this technique I mentioned, clearing it from the childhood, from the parents and the upbringing and the grandparents, clearing it, the whole process. I did that with her. So then suddenly she wrote in her testimonial, you'll see it on the website, I released all this resentment I had towards my family, all my anger and frustration and bitterness, and I'm feeling happy, for no reason. I'm just feeling great. Another lady was on antidepressants for 30 years, and she lost all her motivation, all her drive, all her passion. She used to do art and dance and music. She just gave up on everything. So she started working with me, and she started feeling much better. And she told me, I'm feeling much better. I said, well, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm an engineer. So go talk to your doctor and see if they can lower your depression, anti-anxiety meds. So she went to him and he goes, okay, let's drop it by a fourth, 25%, and see how you do in case you need to come back. And she said she did that. And she said, I still feel great. So I kept working on her. Okay, drop it 50%, 75%, then finally 100%. And she felt exactly the same. In fact, she felt better. She felt so motivation, so excited that she went back to her painting, her dance, her music, her creativity, her speaking. She gave up on all that. She lost all her motivation because I was able to clear that from her. So in answer to your question, she said in 30 years of taking those meds, she's off everything completely. And she has such a passion and desire for life that she didn't have before. Um, so it has quite a far-ranging impact. It helps with business too, because I worked on a gentleman who had a fallout in a business partnership. He was working in the copy industry. And so that was 10 years ago. And he was upset about that fallout that had happened before. Plus, he wanted to improve his business in general. So by listening to his voice, I could actually hear the limiting patterns of why he was hitting a ceiling in his business. So I released that pattern by harmonizing it. And then suddenly his business, he doubled his business. These things started going well. And then he got a call from that person that had fallen out 10 years before, that same person that he did business with that fell through. And that guy said to him, I really feel badly that business deal went sour. I would like to renegotiate if you're okay with that, but I will give you even a bigger offer than I did before. And I think, let's put our past behind us. He called on his own, this other guy who he didn't know that I worked on him, this current businessman. And that happened. So I helped top singers who needed to finish an album in record time, and they had some breakup or some emotional thing in their life. So I cleared that, and they were able to finish the album or give their best performance ever. I have so many wonderful testimonials. Oh yeah, here's one you may like. I worked on a gentleman who was the black sheep of the family. All of them were doctors and engineers. We were talking about engineers and lawyers, and he wanted to go on the spiritual path. He's the only one of the family who decided to do that. So he came to me secretly saying, I'm going to the family reunion, Deepak, but I don't want to go there because every time I go there, my father mocks me and all my siblings jump in with my father and making fun of me. I'm the black sheep of the family. So I worked on him, cleared all those imprints, and I said, you know what? I want you to go to the family reunion. Hey, what are you talking about, Deepak? I'll be made fun of. It'll be horrible. I said, no. Your energy is different now. You're resonating a totally different energy. Your voice tone totally different. Your energy is different. He went to the family reunion, and you will not believe this. His father had no idea, and his whole family, that I'm doing this work, and they wouldn't have probably been open to that, like you talked about right brain thinking. So he goes to the father, and the father looked at him, and he had tears in his eyes. He said, son, I've been mad. I've been so mean to you all these years, 10 years or more. I've been so mean to you, calling you names, calling you the black sheep of the family, but I feel so badly. You know what? You are the golden child of the family. I was mistaken. I'm so sorry about what I said to you. He was looking at him like, is this my father? Who is this guy? And all the siblings who were just ready to pounce on him, like that. They said, what did you do to dad? That's not what we expected. So they were stupefied. So he was the one with he had the last win there. So remember, they didn't know I did all this work on him. So this is how powerful it is. It not only shapes your environment, but even the environment outside of you. And I have so many stories like that.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing those testimonials. It just kind of seems like the kind of work that you're doing, you're literally giving people back to themselves. As in, they already were who they were, but just those patterns that were, stopping them to actually really unlock themselves. And once you remove them, that they start smelling the roses and actually really enjoying the life that they. Absolutely.
Yes.
And for those that are maybe interested in experiencing this program and experiences, what steps should they take to get started with you?
Absolutely. So they can go to my website, which is Fast Anxiety, Fast Anxiety Help, HELP.com. Fast Anxiety Help, HELP.com. If they go to the website, they can sign up for a complimentary 15-minute consult by either phone or Zoom, either way, with me, no obligations. So I can listen to what it is you want to address in your life. What do you want to improve in your life? What do you want to enhance in your life? What do you want to release in your life? Maybe you want a whole new relationship and you draw the same kind of limiting relationships. By the way, that's another testimonial. I had so many women coming to me. They say, Deepak, I draw the same horrible relationship over and over again. But then I clear that pattern, and then they suddenly draw the dream partner that they never could have even imagined. So that's what happens is I can listen to the person's unique issues, and I will create a program unique for them. And so that way I can listen to what each person uniquely wants to share with me, and I'll tell them how I will plan to do it for them.
Absolutely. I like that. It's like a pattern break, you know. So many people are just going through patterns in life. They're not even questioning what it is that they are playing, you know, the software that's running their lives, and they keep running into all these unwanted scenarios, and you're offering that. So I'll definitely make sure that all those links are in the show notes so that people can actually get started on these patterns and maybe start living or having a happier existence. Now, half of the time people, you know, fish don't see the water that they swim in, and people might actually think it's always been like this. This is who my life has become. And your work really emphasizes on clearing those subconscious blocks, because they are subconscious for a reason. That's the reason why they're not brought to the surface. But how can somebody start maybe identifying that they have such blocks? Because so many people wait until it's way too late, only to realize when a heart attack happens or a stroke happens or maybe something tragic happens, then they then have that wake up call. But with what you're doing, this is so much of like an intervention before that stage starts to happen. But when somebody hears something like this, how can they then start maybe taking note of, wait a minute, this ain't right?
Well, if the person is unsatisfied, unhappy, frustrated, angry, sad, depressed, that means there's something in their life that's not going the way they want. That's how they'll know. Or if they're feeling anxious or helpless or hopeless or there's no way out, that's part of the subconscious programming, the thinking. It's a limited thinking that keeps repeating, right? So if you do the same thing you always did, you're going to get the same thing you always got. Okay? If you can't repeat the same thing and hope for a different result, right? I think they you know what they call that. So this will completely, if you're in a certain spin that's spiraling down, what I will do is stop it from spiraling down and actually invert it and have it spiraling up. Everyone knows about the spiral down, but did you know there's also a spiral up that goes infinitely up as well? Most people don't know that, but that's where I help them to take them. For example, I worked on a lady who was around 90 years old. She had no hope for living another day. She gave up on life. She was living alone. She had no friends and everyone hated her. Okay? So I worked on her. Fortunately, she found me, fortunately. And I cleared those patterns. I tracked it back to when she was 7 years old, when a teacher told her that she was ugly, she'll never amount to anything, she's no good. I don't know why a teacher would say that. This was in the 1920s, but that's what happened. I tracked it back all the way to there, cleared all of that emotional pattern. So when I released that imprints from her, that's why her life was like that her whole life. Then she suddenly had such a joy she never had in life. She couldn't wait to live each day. She had no friends, remember. Suddenly, all these gifts were at her door the day of the initial sessions. She said, what are these gifts? All these gifts were at her door. See how the law of attraction stuff changes? Then all these people wanted to suddenly be her friends. Remember, she had no friends. And she had so many friends. She came to me for a session afterwards and said, Deepak, I have a problem. I said, problem? You're feeling you love life. You have more friends than you could ever have. You're excited about everything. What is the problem? She said, the problem is I have too many friends. I can't go to all of their events, their family reunions. I have to say no to 30% of them. I don't know how to say no. I said, this is not a problem. This is a good problem. I'll help you to say no, no problem. But you could never say yes before, so this is okay.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, this is a nice turn of events, and you are definitely helping people. But I've got a question here. It's kind of personal for you there, Deepak. Now, if any of those bullies showed up on your website or in your space today, would you help them?
I would gladly help them because I understand where they're coming from. As a kid, I definitely didn't because I was programmed right that way, thinking that way. In fact, I was attracting that situation. But of course, I would help them, absolutely, because I would know exactly why they're acting the way they are. It's actually coming from a place of insecurity that they feel they need to justify themselves in that way. So it actually comes from their upbringing and how they're brought up. Now I understand all of that. So answer yes, I would say no worries. Even though you're the same one who bullied me when I was a kid, let's work on this.
Absolutely. Well, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today. I mean, your experience and what you're doing to people is very, very unique and it is needed. But looking ahead, what are the aspirations for the Chari Center of Health and your life transformation technology program? What's next?
Well, I want to continue what I'm doing and help more and more people, as many as I can, because my big mission in doing this, and my sister's also, as she's working on people's issues, the natural approach, there's no side effects at all with whatever conditions they have, is to create a global awareness of how you don't have to feel that you're stuck with either health or especially emotional patterns. And I'm actually helping, I feel, to change history. Because had I not intervened, that person would have continued that same pattern of limiting thinking over and over again, drawing the same results. Because we shifted their path, they're going to draw wonderful things into their life and inspire other people they would not have otherwise inspired, thus changing the course of history from what their life would have been and what they would have drawn into their life, and even the other people in their life. Because when you're feeling happy, you draw wonderful people in your life, you inspire them, they inspire others, they inspire others. So that's my global vision, to create a whole new paradigm of thinking and consciousness and within everyone by helping each person one at a time.
Absolutely. Now, Deepak, I can't thank you enough for the time, the expertise that you have shared with us, and just for you sharing your own transformative journey and the incredible work that you're doing, out there for other people.
My pleasure, Prosper. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And for our listeners and viewers, if you're ready to release those subconscious blocks and embrace a more confident and peaceful life, I will put all the links for you to get in touch with a Deepak, and you can schedule a complimentary 15-minute consultation that he has offered us today. But I want to also maybe encourage you to share this video with somebody who might be going through stuff. Maybe they feel bullied at school, maybe they feel bullied at work, or maybe they feel bullied in their own life by their own subconscious patterns. And that could be also a big form of bullying, because those patterns are not coming from them, they're coming from their past and things of that nature. Maybe this could be something that they never knew existed that could actually help them, so they too can do and have a happier existence. And if somebody has shared this video with you, thank them, because they've seen something that could actually be of help to you. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more insightful episodes like this, because in the next episode, we're going to be exploring ideas that could help you lead a more happier and fulfilling life. Until next time, bye for now.